our host for this evening, Guillem Balague, with his guest, Jesus Perez. Good evening, everybody. Spurs made it into the semi-finals of the Champions League. Just mentioned that in case you forgot. But before we start, let me thank, of course, Jesus Perez, who's knackered. But not only he's come on his own, he's actually brought the other two members of the staff that make the team, the coaching staff and the way they work absolutely special. I did not expect Miguel and Toni Jimenez to come here, and they actually come to see you and to be here, and they're over there, so thank you very much for your presence. They've moved. Let's do this again. We're over there. So tonight is about Spurs, first and foremost. It's about Jesus. And as William said earlier, it's about Biggleswade United. I'm the chairman of Biggleswade United. We've got some players, some coaches from the club. And it's a way of raise funds to pay for so many things that we have to pay. We have to change the floodlights. We have to change the grass. We don't pay the coaches, but we pay coaches courses. So the money that we'll get today will go for all that. To pay referees, we've got one of our referees that have referees this season. We have to pay them as well. So all that, the money that we collect today will go into that. So I'll ask you at the back, if you just keep a little bit quiet, because then we'll all be able to hear ourselves. Oh, that's much better. So I think we have to start, Jesus, from the end. In fact, from the end of the game even. Let's go back to yesterday. It was yesterday. Unbelievable. It looks like it was days ago. What happened in your head, in everybody's head, with your bodies? What happened at the point of the last 2 minutes of the game? Run us through it.
Well, first of all, good evening. Let me say hi from Mauricio to all of you. We are here on behalf of the team. And yesterday, I think the images speak for themselves. The last minute, everything
went crazy.
Yeah, went crazy, but everything went through our minds, it's just in the opposite side. So in 1 minute we were looking or watching the opponent running, shouting, jumping, and 45 seconds later, everyone knows what happened. So that's how big football is right now, how the VAR will change the game, and unfortunately it worked for us.
So at that point, there was a moment where Mauricio Pochettino kind of threw his jacket away and he just went mad, of course. This is the point where you think you've been knocked out of the Champions League. And you go to him and said, calm down. Not because you thought of anything different to the outcome that you could see was going to happen. You didn't feel that things were going to change, but you were asking for what at that point to Mauricio?
Well, he was coming from the touchline to the bench, and Miguel, Toni, and myself, we were there. He was throwing the jacket, the jumper, and everything, and he wanted to kick all the bottles of water. And I said, okay, stay relaxed. But in this moment, I watched to the left side, and I saw the referee, making the signal of the VAR, and I said, I think it's going to be right, No one expected, but it was there, and so it couldn't finish in a different way.
If he had finished in a different way, I'm sure all of you would have been here. Perhaps perhaps less hangover and perhaps less willing to have a drink. But I tell you what, Jesus would have been here, for sure. And that's a measure of, I think those of you that have read the book that we wrote with the coaching staff, with Pochettino, a measure of their human stature. You were talking about people that are loyal, committed to the work, and normal, really, really good people. He would have been here. But no, actually, you did qualify. And of course, at the point where you hear that something has happened, I've got the impression that Kun Agüero and Bernardo Silva kind of knew that they were offside. Did you have that impression?
Well, they were coming from offside position, and I think the linesman saw that. But in this moment, you know, so 1 centimeter can change everything. So I don't know if they already knew that.
Okay, so then you hear that something's happened, and how did you all react?
How do we react?
I don't need you to represent it right here, but just take us through that moment. No, you cannot represent it.
I did yesterday. I spent all my energy yesterday.
Because that's the other thing that happened. I'm not joking. They're absolutely tired, and it does happen as well when there is such a high in football, when a game has been so intense. And if you don't mind, we'll go through it a little bit in a minute. You actually give absolutely everything, and you're empty. There's a moment of where you feel so low, as if I just want to go home. While everybody's celebrating, of course. And you went through that a little bit, and Mauricio as well, and I bet Jesus and Miguel too.
Yeah, I think probably 10-15 minutes after the last celebration in the dressing room, I think everyone saw it now on internet or in Twitter how it was. We went in our dressing room, small office. I think it was a moment of, you know, so the energy went completely off. But then we start to receive some guests inside, and you know, and start to, let's say, celebrate again.
I tweeted today a picture of the four of them hugging each other. And there was a moment where, I'm not sure you were able to reproduce what you said at the time. You were all shouting. I just was looking closely to the images and the pictures and the sound. I couldn't make out what he was saying. Something like, something like that. I don't know if you can share with us a little bit what you were saying at that point. Or?
No, I think we were just shouting ourselves. You know, I think Miguel, Toni, and myself, we were very proud for him, especially. And yeah, it's just, you just transmit with your emotion, with your voice, whatever is going through your mind. Sometimes it's genuine, so you cannot be prepared for that situation. And it's, I think everyone could see it.
I think you realize how privileged we are of hearing from Jesus, who doesn't give interviews. I think you've given, is it one, since you arrived to England?
Yeah.
And why is that?
Because I don't have to do it. We got a manager. He's the leader. We are there to support him. I always said he started his career without us. He did very well in his first experience, tough experience, starting Espanyol 8 points in the relegation battle, you know. And he said he helped the team to stay in La Liga, and we weren't there. So he is the leader. We are there to, obviously, to provide our knowledge, our commitment, and our passion, and nothing else. We are not protagonists, you know. That's why I gave just one interview.
Okay, because you won, and sorry, well, you lost, but you qualified. We actually, I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about the game, because it was a game that had absolutely everything. And if you just go through the first 11 minutes, I hear Mauricio say that after 10 minutes or so, Mauricio looked at Pep Guardiola, and Pep Guardiola looked at Mauricio, and he was like, what the hell is going on? What's going on here? So, how did you leave all that from the bench?
Yeah, for us, it was a little bit weird. So we got the feeling in the first 2-3 minutes, you know, the game started very well for us. You know, the managers, especially in this case Mauricio, plan the game to get, certain position on the pitch, to reduce, at the end it's a game to reduce the chances of the opponent and increase yours to try to score or to get the result you need, right? But in the first shoot on target from their goal, the second for us, and it was, I think Gus Poyet said before, 5 shots on target, 5 goals from both teams. So it's very rare in a football match, but it's especially rare in a Champions League game, right? So since that, probably the game was more controlled around the motions than the tactics or the spaces or the positions. And obviously both managers try to react and to find solutions through the game. But I think probably was more emotional game than tactical game.
And it's absolutely unbelievable that actually when you are in a game like this, that you actually can think straight. I was in the media area, and somebody shouted at some point, "What's the score?" Which I never heard in a football match before, because you're supposed to be watching and reporting on it. But I had to start my own report 3 times because something else was happening too. And in my head it was like, oh my God, all these things, how am I going to put it into? Imagine having to take a decision on what happens on the pitch to influence it at that point. It just feels like it's such a tsunami of emotions. How can you intervene?
That's why only special people can be manager. Everyone think, okay, I can do number one. It's so difficult. That's why the managers, they have the capacity to hold those emotions, and to identify what the team needs in every moment. The assistants, we are there to try to help and to try not confuse too much the manager, right? So always I said, 2 meters behind or 2 yards behind the manager is very simple, to give opinions or I will do this and I will do that. But probably because we are just thinking on solutions, but the managers, they are thinking on solutions and the consequences of the solutions in a positive or in a negative way. That's why they have to face all the reactions. So it's very difficult to be a manager.
So you go to one app and it's like, right, I know where the game is going now, and then it's 2-2. And then it's 3-2 to City. And you go at half time, and I guess what was important here is to, again, the players must have been all over the place mentally, to focus them, to direct them towards the way to win. What happened at half time?
Well, I think the halftime was as a normal game. Mauricio went through some images and then explained the players some situations to try to adjust, and then he told them how close we were and how we can give, or we could give everything to try to be in the semi-final, and at the end we got it.
Just a reminder, a little break. We're at half time now, so we're allowed to have a little breather. There'll be raffle tickets for those that want to get the books that are available, signed by Mauricio and myself. I don't know who's got the raffle book, but there's 1,000 tickets in the raffle book. See if we can get rid of all of them, or at least half of them, a third of them, whatever you can do. I think they won, if I'm not mistaken, they're £1 per ticket. So for £1 you could get a signed book. So we are at half time, and in the second half, it did feel a little bit like there was a lot of people thinking of the consequences of a pass, of perhaps failing to be as brave as they have been in the first half, because all of a sudden you were still ahead, but a goal could change everything. Did you feel a little bit in the first 10-15 minutes of the second half were quiet, where you were a little bit shy?
But sometimes it's the impression you got from the bench or from the stand, that doesn't match. I think the game in general went well, because at the end every goal changed the emotion of the teams. So of course the first goal for them probably increased their belief, but as soon we score, probably they felt, oh wow, we need to keep going and scoring goals. But the fact we didn't concede a goal at home, it gave us the advantage in any moment to score. you know, and to change the motion of the team. How we will react then in the last 10 minutes if we needed the ball, they will, you know, and this is something sometimes it's difficult to plan, it's difficult to just even to explain, and you have to be on the pitch. That's why if you believe in your players in any moment, you can score a goal, right?
Because nothing happens by chance. So if you were able to straight away when Sissoko got injured to change formation and get Dele Alli to be the central midfielder and to get Lucas Moura to be getting the second balls and Llorente up front, it's because you work all that. So I know that there's a word in certain English media environment that they don't like, which is process and working. Not very sexy word, but that's what's happened. This is the consequence. What we saw is a consequence of a lot of hours of work and a lot of hours of making the players believe that they can do things like this.
Well, I think this is the main quality of Mauricio, is to make people feel part of the team, despite any personal circumstances. I think through the season, every player was important in different games. Let's say play in the ball, play in defense, play in the midfield, or scoring goals. And when you need them, they were ready, especially mentally. You know, sometimes to get a right form to perform is difficult if you don't have a proper sequence of matches. But if you mentally believe you can help the team, I think it's just respect the principle. I think Mauricio respects the principle, respects the players, and they are there when you need them. Obviously, it's difficult from both sides, but if yesterday one player helped us, you know, to go through was Fernando, and I think Mauricio proved to him respect using him when Sissoko was injured.
Let's talk about Fernando Llorente and that goal. Because you go 4-2 down, and at that moment is the psychology of the player that matters, not so much the tactics. Do they believe? Do they believe that there's still a game on? Do they believe that there's a goal to be scored, even though the dynamic it seemed to be in the favour of City? Did you sense that with 4-2 people were like, yeah, we're still on this game? You felt that?
I think we were, and then we had a set play for us, and in the first corner didn't go well, but we got another corner in the same action, you know, and in that action we scored the goal. So it's something Mauricio and all the team work really hard, and with Fernando and Dele, with Toby, with Jan, always you have a chance, you know, if the ball goes in a good position, you know, at least to score, to have a chance to score. So I think again, if you believe, I think all the coaching staff prepare, you know, actions in place, how to defend, how to attack. But in this moment, it's just to believe. The team got the signal that maybe was the action to score.
Yeah, and Llorente scored the goal with his leg, and the goal went in. Yeah, it went in. And just you know, that was the referee, wasn't it? He didn't see anything wrong. So if he didn't see anything wrong, who are we to say that it was wrong? So anyway, I spoke to Fernando Llorente after the game, and this is how the mind of players work sometimes. He felt like, first of all, thinking it was a goal, no VAR. The first impression was, football owes me something. I was in the Europa League final, I lost it. And that's the game that he's kept in his mind. And football will give me something. So even though it's difficult mentally to go to training every day knowing that Hurricane is ahead of you or whatever, that you won't always play, he kept being motivated that way because football owes him something. I would have given up after a month, but football players are made of a different thing. So he felt it was his moment, that the gods had given him what they owe him, and then of course they took it away. And he was going, no kids around. He said, I shit myself. Sorry. In Spanish, but the same meaning. And he was basically saying, they're not going to take it away. So he went round, as if in a superstitious way, went round to talk to the players and say, no, he's not going to cancel it, he's not going to disallow it, no. And I think the more he repeated, the more he believed it. And the players were like, well, what happened? What did you do? I don't know, I jumped, ball went in. I don't know, I didn't feel anything. Again, I don't know if, maybe that was the case. Anyway, so at that point, 4-3, the game, it's getting to the last 12, 13 minutes. Was there anything to do at that point, or you felt like, no, we actually are organized enough to hold City right there?
Well, I think we felt the game in the last 10, 12 minutes was quite in control, but in football and against Man City, or everything can happen. And in terms of substitutions, I think we got one more player to use, but then manager and every coaching staff have different principles in terms of substitutions. Sometimes they prefer to keep one just in case something happens, an injury, or there are managers or coaching staff, they prefer to straight away, to try to put fresh players on the pitch. And Mauricio decided to wait right until the end, But I think nothing special, and then the action of the goal, no goal, changed completely everything. Hopefully, it went well for us.
And you qualify for the semi-finals of the Champions League because we took to the final. And just before we move on, interesting semi-final against a team that has surprised us all. Again, a team that hasn't got a lot of money, but they managed to do it by a lot of things that you do as well. I mean, people are talking about Cruyff and Ajax, but it's not that similar to the kind of things that you're trying to put in place. Young players coming through, giving the opportunity to players not because of their age or their experience, but because they're good at that point, and make them believe that they can be better. That's what Ajax is about, that's what you are about. So, in a way, it's a fascinating encounter because of that, but how do you see it from where you stand right now?
Well, I think it's going to be exciting to legs just to get a spot on the final. I think I cannot speak too much about Ajax because I don't know exactly how they end up, but from outside it looks a clear club with clear structure and philosophy, and vision. So they produce players, they sell players, and they start again. Obviously, the context is completely different. In the league, they are competing, but I think it's 2 seasons ago they played with the Europa League final. Now they're in the semi-final Champions League. Something there, right? So very good players, some experienced players as well with experience in the Premier League. I think it's going to be a nice 2 games. Also, we have players who they came from Ajax, so I think it's going to be exciting games.
Before that, you're playing against City in about 2 days' time, isn't it? And I wonder how you face a game like this. You're giving everything, everybody's giving everything. In fact, this is, I'm going to ask you how you went last night, if you slept, because I bet the rest of the squad went through the same. Did you sleep a lot last night?
Yeah, a few hours. Because the wine at the night was so good.
But also because you were preparing, or was it Toni preparing mate at 8 o'clock in the morning? The Latin American drink that they drink every morning, but it's more than just a drink, it's a ritual. And that was 8 o'clock in the morning this morning?
Yeah, 8 o'clock, Mauricio sent a text. I am in the restaurant, so we went there.
So everybody was there when you went to bed at 3 o'clock or something, maybe?
3, yeah. Let's say 3, yeah.
All right.
The condition, I don't know, but definitely.
So, you're talking about a lot of emotions, difficult to actually release those emotions. The players must be the same, on both ends, because you actually are on a high because you won, but City will be on a low because they were knocked out. But 2 days later, how do you recover? What do you do? Just because you trained this morning as well.
Yeah, well, actually, once the game is over, we start the recovery process in the dressing room. So the players, they have different protocol to respect, and then we got an amazing facilities at the training ground. So we came from the airport straight to the lodge, there's their proper nutrition in the morning, and then recovery session for the majority of the players, and quite a good activation for the guys that were in the bench or just play a few minutes. And let's see how they are tomorrow. We have to assess and then decide which players are in the best condition to play Saturday again.
Because right now the price of success is that you hardly have time to train, and at this stage of the season it's more about recuperation, both physically and mentally, more than prepare set pieces or tactics or anything like that.
Yeah, basically with the density of matches, we need to especially focus on recovery with the players they are obviously playing, but the guys in the bench, or well, we don't have many left of the squad, so we have to train as well. We have to maintain them in a good level, so that's why we need to prize them, because after the match, you know, they did a good training session as well yesterday in Manchester. But every game, maybe the people leave the stadium, but there are 8-9 guys training when everyone is celebrating when we win, you know. So that's why we try to get them in a good form when it's needed to play them.
My list of gratitude and debt to you, it's very, very high, but I had to add one more, because yesterday after the game, in Spain, the biggest football shows are radio shows. Radio shows listened by 1 million people. And at midnight, which is 11 o'clock in the UK, and at that point everybody's debating things, and sometimes what happens, if you've got the opportunity, you put the phone to one of the stars of the day, and he talks to the presenter back in Spain. It's a big, big thing. And I met Jesus and Mauricio, and Jesus passed the phone to Mauricio, and he was asked by the Spanish journalist, the Spanish presenter, Juanma Castaño, one question. He said, if tomorrow, so if the 1st of June, I'll start again. The 1st of June, would Harry Kane be ready if he had to be on the 1st of June? That's how he put it. He didn't mention the final, he didn't mention anything, but he said, if I needed Harry Kane to play a game for me, or you know, a friendly or whatever, would he be ready? Do you remember what he said?
I didn't listen to this.
Okay.
But I know what he said today in the press conference, so he said, with Harry Kane everything is possible.
He said he was optimistic, and he hopes, he thinks that he will be ready. So that's massive news that were, of course, debated amply in the radio show. With Harry Kane, everything is possible. He always recovers a little bit early. How is that? Because of how hard he works at recovering, or?
I think he's very consistent in the last, since we met him 5 years ago. He's very consistent. The way he trains, the way he carries himself, you know, and it's not as strange when he's injured, he recovers quicker because he uses his good form. So he never loses the form. You know, he's a guy that works really, really hard. He's really focused. Spent lots of hours just caring about himself, and that's why work normally pays off.
Right, we touch on the semi-finals. We touch on Harry Kane right now, and it's time to talk a little bit about Mauricio Pochettino, because even though you mentioned some of the things that make him special, in the year that I was following you very closely, I saw so many of them. But I'd like you to share with us what makes him, don't call it special if you don't want to, but different, and what makes you, Toni and Miguel, follow him. And what makes you comfortable him being the leader? Why is that?
I think he makes you feel good. It's simple. It's you know, it's too many things to explain that, but it's how I will describe. He makes you feel good. He feels, he shows he's a normal guy when we are all together. Of course, all the managers I said before, they are special. Because only if you are special you can be a manager. We are not talking about results. You know, it's just to do that step to become a manager. And he's very normal, you know him very well. And he uses always the word we. And that's described everything.
I've had many conversations with you, with Toni, with Miguel, with Mauricio, but I remember one in particular in Barcelona when, I believe, when you were at Espanyol, Mauricio sent you to England to report on, or you got a report prepared on how it all worked in England at the time you were at Espanyol. Because you were thinking about the future, about where to go, where this methodology could be applied. And then we went for lunch, and Mauricio asked me, he said, how do you imagine my career going? And I said, well, I'm an Espanyol fan, that has to be clarified. And of course, already is my idol as captain of Espanyol and a coach of Espanyol that made us believe, made us be happy about the team, brought a lot of youngsters through, got good results, we beat Barcelona, a lot of things that were to celebrate. And I said, well, you of course take Espanyol to Europe, and then somebody like Atletico Madrid poaches you, and then you take Atletico Madrid to the Champions League regularly, and then perhaps you get to a final, and then you come back to Espanyol and take us to the Champions League, when we have more money. And he looked at me and said, what a mediocre career you think I'm going to have. And I thought, all right, you're going to go to here and then here. So that sounds better. You already had a long time ago the idea that England was a place where you had, and already you were a team. Since 2014, is that right? You've been together? So, more or less. You already had an idea that in England it could all work, that it was the place to go. Who came up with that?
Well, I think right now, 10 years ago, thanks to, I don't know if here, my friend Rubio helped me. He's here. So,
Hello.
big thank you to him because so right now is the time. 10 years ago I was here today 1 month and he helped me, to spend a really nice month in England, so living in his sister's house. And he took me everywhere to his coaching trainings. We went to watch some matches, and I got, obviously 1 month is not too much, but I got the feeling how the football in England was at the time, and then I joined the coaching staff of Mauricio, and if one day the possibility to come England, very difficult, because it was at that time, still now, but very, very, very rare, to come from different leagues to manage in England, unless you've got big trophies in behind you. We knew him intense, but with the sense to provide faith on young people. He got the experience when he was young, so why not? And when the possibility to come to England was there, obviously we tried to transmit to him, we should take it.
In fact, there was a moment, which is explained in the book, a moment in which you were absolutely relevant to the decision to move to England, because when the Southampton offer came about and you just finished Espanyol and you wanted to take some time off and do other things, so Mauricio wanted to, you insisted, and Karina, his wife as well, that no, it's so hard to get into England. Now that we've been given the chance, we better take it. And he was like, no, my English and it's hard and I'm not ready, or it's not the moment. And then he went to the toilet. That's how he explains it. And then he came out of the toilet, and what did he say?
Well, first of all, we need to explain the context, because it was a very difficult 6 months, because at the end of the previous season in Espanyol, things with the boat, with the fans, in the club weren't right. Not with Mauricio, but so the general state of the club, it was very difficult. He got a big offer to move to Italy, and we decided to go. And the day where the press conference was set to announce his departure, he called us and said, we have to go to Espanyol Stadium, to Cornellà, to the press conference. but I'm gonna say we stay. So, okay. So, and then we stay. Things didn't go well. So, at the end of that period, he needed time to review everything, to relax, you know. I think it was the last time he went to Argentina with his family. And at the time we got to go from Southampton. And it was good is because in the summer we were joking about Southampton because we got in our team Rui Fonte, where his brother was playing on the captain, well, one of the captains in Southampton. We said, Southampton what? Southampton what? You know, we were laughing about 6 months before about Southampton. And then Southampton in December, January came to knock the door of Mauricio. And as soon we got the proposal, you know, I thought we cannot miss it that, you know, but he wasn't sure because different circumstances, and it's true what happened. He went to the toilet downstairs, and Karina and myself we were saying we need to convince him, you know, he can't miss this opportunity, and look what happened after.
So he came up and says, we are going.
Yeah, we go.
All right. So that was the beginning of a journey that started with the four of you, with Toni, with Miguel, with you, with
we are 5. Sebastiano Pochettino is with us as well.
And Sebastiano. And you lived in a hotel in Southampton, where any Southampton people here? There's not much to do in Southampton, let's put it that way. So you spent a lot of time in the hotel. From the morning, you had breakfast, and then you go to the training ground. Sometimes it was completely frozen. That's, you know, England, this is January when you arrived. And then in the evening, there's not much to do. If it's a Thursday, it's Europa League. And there was this scene which stuck in my head, and I added it in the book as well, in which the four of you decided to go to Pochettino's room. Somebody had a computer with a not legal streaming of an Europa League game, and you just sat in there, one lying down, the other one lying down, one in the sofa, the other one in a chair, and you'll fall asleep because there have been long days.
Luke Shaw too.
Second?
Luke Shaw was in the bed too.
Because he was Pochettino's little son. So, you know, that picture of four friends on a journey, on an adventure, and doing something they absolutely love and they're passionate about, and also being dead to the feet with the amount of work and hours that you put into what you love the most. At that point, you are with Southampton and you're happy to be there. You're not thinking, right, next, I don't know, the biggest clubs in the world. You're thinking of enjoying the journey. That is also part of the secret of this group of working group, isn't it?
I think it's the main principle. So just we look at the day and tomorrow, and respecting the club or the company who gives us a good environment to develop our job and nothing else. I think we as a coaches, we have the responsibility to respect every single club, you know, and before you say something negative to your club, you know, or to the sport of football, you need to think twice, you know, because football gives us a lot since we were kids, once playing at a high level, another just playing in a local level, and then all of us becoming coaches, right? And it's the main principle. So Mauricio, you know, he says, let's football decide where we go.
It's joy, it's fun, that's what they do, joy and fun. Sometimes I don't agree with the sense of humor though. Last night I saw you and you said, I'm not sure I'm coming tomorrow. Which wasn't very funny. But everybody laughed. So I'm thinking, no, but there is about 200 people waiting for us. Oh, well, I don't know. What time do we start? 7? What time do we finish? Whatever. Whatever? It's like, yeah, is that okay? So Mauricio passed by and I said, he's not coming. He says he's not coming. And he kind of laughed as well. So I'm thinking, so if you wonder why I couldn't sleep last night. But not only he had prepared to come and he knew he was coming and what time he was coming and where he was coming to, I never knew that Toni and Miguel were going to come. So when I saw them, it was like, that's what they're made of. They're just good people. They wanted to share with you a little bit of time, their experiences, in the voice of Jesus, because they lost theirs. And we're gonna now, the raffle tickets are, I don't know if they've been sold, they're somewhere around there. Over there, raffle tickets have been handed over there. But he will come over to all of you, so we go a little bit through your career. And if you can think of funny moments or things that are interesting that allow you to enjoy your career, and then we'll introduce. There were guests prepared. Some of you have seen at least one of them who played for your club, and we will be introducing Gustavo Poyet in a minute. Pedro Martinez, coach, who will tell you about his experience as well. He's in Millwall now. And then Rubio, who was a key part of the story of Jesus Perez. But we'll do that in a minute. First, you coach with, you were physical coach with John Toshak?
I try to help you.
So was that one of the most interesting parts? Because that was after he had been a depot, after he had introduced new things to Spanish football, and it'd be good if you can tell us a little bit about that. And after Real Madrid. But first, John made important introductions into Spanish football.
Yeah, I think I had a great opportunity to work with him during 6 months. We were in a small club in Spain, Murcia, at the time in La Liga, but we were in a bad situation. And we started the season with a great manager, very experienced manager, Joaquin Pedro. Things didn't go well, and I think the board decided to bring John, and it was a good learning experience for me. Of course, it was in a different state of mind, as you said, after the big clubs he managed, But it was a good learning point for me, to step back and to see how one guy with his experience, with knowledge. And it was very exciting moment for me because I just listen.
What did you learn from him? One thing that you learned from him?
I was surprised the amount of detail in his preparation for the trainings. And then I remember after it was the first or the second training, I called Miguel was his former player Real Madrid and Real Sociedad. And he said, Miguel, we are doing these drills, I said, yeah, 20 years ago I used to do it. And he said, really? So 20 years at that time, if he was capable to work with the players in that way, well, was for me was amazing. And then we can discuss the organization of the trainings because he managed the team thinking in his previous experience. I remember one day he was managing the team and it was very, very intense, and he said, Jesus, now take the team to the pitch number 2 and kill them. And I said, really? Yeah, this is what they used to do in Liverpool and no one died, For me it was strange because normally you will do something intense before, the tactical work and stuff like that. But I took the lesson, I think he wasn't focused on the physical aspect. It was more on the mental, and he wanted to push the players, to the limit. Right? I think it was good to share, listen to him, and off the pitch, because he was a guy who looked after the staff very well.
Great storyteller. I think he's more famous in Spain than he probably is in here. Former Liverpool player, Real Madrid coach, Deportivo La Coruña coach. But in the rest of your career, and is it 14, 15 years before you joined Pochettino?
Yeah.
In that period, what else would you say it's important for coaches to know things that you learn that are good to share?
Well, when I was 16, 17, I did realize I couldn't play professional play, so I said, okay, better change your direction, and that's why I went to the university to get my degrees in sports science and coaches badges in Spain. And I remember when I was in my 5th year of university, I said, if one day I can be the fitness coach in a league, let's say League 2 club, it will be amazing for me. that time, I got the determination to try to be in football, and I was very lucky, to get the first opportunity in my city, Nasti de Tarragona, and since then I started to move in different clubs. My own journey, join coaches, clubs, until I was so lucky to meet Mauricio by circumstances and coincidence in a difficult moment of my career, because after 15, 16 years with, let's say, 20 different managers, it was really difficult for me to progress. I didn't want to go to Espanyol because I came from Saudi Arabia. A good experience for me, but very difficult from mental point of view. Also, I got a problem there, and I said I'm gonna rest. But Ramon insists me to go to Espanyol to help them.
This is Ramon Planas, was the director of football. Now he's at Football Club Barcelona.
Yeah, and in the fifth meeting, I said, okay, I will go. And luckily, I went.
Now, as you can hear, this is somebody that actually had difficulties and thought positively about the outcome. So there was going to be a battle, but you were going to come out through it. And if there was an opportunity, even though it was perhaps 2 steps back in your career, when you accepted the job offer from Espanyol, you thought, okay, I'll go this way. It hasn't been this way, I'll go this way. And then you were analyzing games. Tell us a little bit the job you were doing at Espanyol and how the possibility of working with Pochettino came about.
Well, Ramon asked me to help the club and Mauricio with a couple of players. They were ready to sign, but they couldn't train in a public training ground. So we went to the hotel, and I remember I met Mauricio in Barcelona, and he showed me the Carretera de las Aguas is a track to run, a lovely place in Barcelona, where years after we spent a lot of time running together there. And said, if you can help us, no one will identify you helping and training a couple of players in the hotels. So I said, no worries, I will go, I will do it for you. I was doing 100 kilometers up and down to do that job. And then this is Ramon insisting me, if you can help us in some methodology aspects, in the reserve team and the academy. And I said, no, Ramon, this is not my job. In the last 10 years, I am assistant on sports science in first clubs in different divisions, but it's not my, and I don't want to be there, but you have to go. And as I said in the fifth meeting, I said, okay, I will go. And what happened is I was doing just like breaking down all the principles of the first team of Mauricio to try to show to the 23s and 18s. And I was working with, in England it's very common, the sports coach. And that summer, Mauricio, because in Spain you don't have the resources like the English clubs, so Mauricio paid for his software, laptop, camera, and everything. And
so Mauricio paid for the whole.
Yeah, they paid for the whole system to be used in the first team. So after the first game in La Liga, the guy who was supposed to do the job said, "I'm sorry, but I'm leaving. I go to Barcelona." And I was using that system for the last 3-4 years, and they said, "Can you help us, to do the position analysis, and also you can start to travel with us in the matches and to do." And he said, "Okay." So I came here to help. It doesn't matter, but it's a good lesson because sometimes in your professional career you don't get the job you want or you dream, but you have to go through because you put yourself again on the floor, and sometimes you have to go backwards to do basics or to do, a job like maybe is not in your mind, but probably will help you to become stronger in the future.
People are desperate. This is almost like a lesson in life. People are desperate for people to say, yes, I'll do it. Yes, I'll do it. And for people to say, what else is there to do? And you are that. You are the guy who said yes, and what else is there to do? So now you do 100 million things. You do everything that needs doing, of course. You don't need to go through the details of it because you touch all kinds, from science to media to translation sometimes, to the physical side, to the medical. So have you ever known a role like yours in football? Because you have so many layers of what you're dealing with now.
No, like this. I think the job is very simple because I try to connect Mauricio with our club. And our club, around the first team, are 25 people, members of the staff, the regular 25, and Toni, Miguel, myself, Sebastiano. Just what we do is to connect Mauricio with those departments, and we are together, respecting the principles. And it's very simple when you have good professionals with you. Of course, we have problems, like all the houses, but we try to solve our problems by ourselves, and try to put the team first.
I hope you all have a soft spot for Espanyol, by the way, you Spurs supporters, because as you know, Pochettino is a big Espanyol fan, so much so that yesterday when he was asked, is this the biggest game of your career? I think he's thinking they're going to be more with the Spurs. He actually said, no, the biggest game of my career was against Almeria, a game that guaranteed that Espanyol was staying up in the first division, and this is on his first year as a coach. He said there were tears, there were emotions very high, all the family were affected by what was going on. This will be my last question before I introduce the guests. Just take us to that moment where you, at Almeria, and how hard it was to get there to be safe.
No, I can explain that because at that time I wasn't with Mauricio, but there are so many connections with Toni and Miguel in our journey in football, because I was the assistant manager of Almeria at the beginning of the season, but we got sacked by December. So Mauricio took charge in Espanyol in January 2009, So by that time they got, they saved the division, or they saved the state. So I wasn't in Almeria, and either I wasn't in Espanyol. But he explained us, I think yesterday, he said, the big game is it depends what it means for you. And he was the player, he was the captain, and he was the manager. The kids, as he said, they sleep with the Espanyol pajamas. So that's why probably it meant a lot, that victory.
That's why you should have a soft spot for Espanyol. So I wanted to bring a few guests because they are coaches, the people that they admire what Pochettino and his coaching staff are doing, and I wanted to give them the opportunity to ask 2 or 3 questions from a coaching perspective and something that you will find interesting, of course. So let me introduce you first, Pedro Martinez, who's now at Millwall, and who, of course, used to be Arsenal's. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. Pedro, I'm going to hand the microphone to you. I want you to tell us briefly a little bit your career, that little mistake of being at Arsenal included, and where you are now, and then just ask Jesus 2 or 3 questions that you might find interesting to know the answer.
Well, first, thank you to give me the privilege to be here with this big monster about football, because obviously it's an incredible occasion. Second one, I don't think it's too much about me. I was very lucky to work with fantastic people in clubs like Atletico de Madrid, Rayo Vallecano, Arsenal, and now I work for Millwall. And the big part, I think Jesus was explaining, is about believing, about the right people and making the team believe in what you are doing. So that's pretty much my career. I had 2 questions for Jesus, a little more as a coach. I was watching the game last night, and I was thinking, first, obviously we had this Spygate case this year in terms of the obsession of the coaches to control everything, and we are all obsessed about controlling everything, but then you go to the game last night and then you can't control anything. So how you prepare for that chaos, and not just for this game, but this is a good example, maybe a reflection also, that it's just an obsession. We just want to control everything, but at the end you go to a game and suddenly the game is a game and happens and certain things that you can't control. So how you control that part of the chaos?
Yeah, I think every team prepares the game in a different way. Let's say if you have in your squad plenty of players to decide first how you approach the game in a different way. But I think most of the teams, first we need to decide or to look with who. Okay, this is the best 11 players we have. Okay, and then you decide how. You know, I think in our team, especially this season, it will happen quite often. So first we need to know with who, and then we decide how. And Mauricio, yesterday, once he got clear the first 11 players to start with, decide how, you know, watching previous games we play against them, because I think the real reference was the games in between us, know what the other opponents did against them. Probably in set pieces there are some details where you can learn from the opponents, what they are preparing week in, week out. And yeah, I think you know better than me, but you try to control not the game, but yet control the way how the players will feel comfortable on the pitch to reduce the chances, you know. But I think I will explain one sentence is Mauricio. He says to me quite often when, you know, Miguel, myself, and Toni, we are talking in the bench, and Mauricio is there. He said, okay, we have to go and tell Mauricio this, that, you know. And someone quite often he said to me, yeah, how do you want me to tell, you know? Because in your mind you will move the pieces and you will try to react and try to control. But the game is very, very difficult to control. The players control the game, you know. You can set principles, you can, you know, coach them to respect the principles, but sometimes it's very, very difficult. And yesterday, as I said before, I think it was more about emotions than tactical shape or movement or stuff like that.
Yeah, that linked to my second question, which is in the last minutes of the game, obviously when Llorente scored a goal, is there any, obviously you've made a substitution, and is there any instruction, is there a way that you can make the players understand what do you want? Is something that you already discussed? Because probably it was very unpredictable.
Yeah, there are few things always were prepared before, but not before this particular game, you know. So let's say if we are with 10, if we got a red card, how we play, the players they know and they practice sometimes when it's possible. Or if we are losing, it depends of the players. But I think there are a key factor or key aspect on the game is the message you transmit to the team with some substitutions, you know? Because theoretically sometimes you say, okay, the number 9 is very tired, is nagging, you know? Okay, I took him off and I put one midfielder. Yeah, theoretically it's yeah, but maybe the message to the opponent is say, okay, Harry Kane is tired, but he's not on the pitch, you know, the threat is gone. And maybe you give belief to the opponent. And sometimes substitutions are based on those situations. And that's the intuition of the manager, you know, and that's why yesterday probably Mauricio decided to put Fernando, or just to wait the last substitution to put the centre back right at the end.
Thank you very much. Guillem and the other people represented at the pressure they want to make interesting question. Thank you.
Right. Now we're going to have Edu Rubio, who's going to tell us a story of how he helped Jesus, and then tell us a little bit about your experience in England. Even though you're very tanned, so I don't think you've been in England in the last few weeks.
This is probably the San Newton Kings. Well, hello everyone. I coach the under 23s in Enfields, and obviously I'm a good friend of Jesus. Basically, just 10 years ago, we wanted to come to obviously learn the language, learn the culture. It was very important for them to understand obviously how to understand football in England. And from what I gather, obviously now I know their opinions and their ethos and values. From what I gather back then, 10 years ago, they go much deeper than just coaching a team and just obviously organizing your formations and your style of play and so on. I think it's quite philosophical. They go into obviously understanding how to treat people, how to understand the people who used to play in the club and so on. So that's what happened. 10 years ago he phoned me and said whether he could come to England, stay with my sisters. My first question is actually, did you ever cook in my sisters? Still, no. No. So yeah, so obviously during that month, back then I used to work for the FA, for the youngsters, the England setup, and it was very good obviously to come with Jesus, come to the training sessions, understand obviously his ideas as well, and it was a very interesting month, and that's what we did. Basically he came over, he learned the language, he learned the culture, and then I believe that probably gave him the belief when they got that phone call from Southampton to say to obviously Toni and the rest of the team, and obviously Mauricio, that he could be of great help because of his experience and his understanding of the culture and the language.
Let me explain two things. It happened in that moment.
Okay.
Football related.
Is that it was in that one was the first time and the last I paid for football tickets. Remember? We went to Chelsea, Liverpool for the Champions League.
Yes.
And another experience we shared, it was to meet Sir Alex Ferguson, remember?
Yes.
Yes. And we took your lovely car for Fiesta. London, Manchester. Yeah. And they said, you have to be there 9 o'clock. And then the secretary of Sir Alex will come in the reception and say hi. And then 3 minutes later he will come and will say, and that was the plan. And it's amazing because 3 minutes past 9,
Yes.
he was there. He said hi to us and bye. Hi and bye.
I am back.
And allowed us to watch the training just beside the beach.
Yeah.
So.
And that links very well with something I was going to tell you later, but I'll share with everyone. I saw Sir Alex Ferguson again the other day in a game. Obviously he didn't remember me, obviously. And me either. I was with a friend and I said, Sir Alex, can we take a picture? And he goes, for sake. So clearly he remembered. Obviously, I had also one question for Jesus. Yesterday, half-time, obviously nerves are there. What do you have a protocol at half-time? Do you normally meet up first with Mauricio and then discuss things, and then you go and explain the things to the team? Did you first check things with obviously the video analysis and so on? Did you do that yesterday? Did you just went through emotions? How did you? Yeah, we did the normal routine. So during 5 minutes, Mauricio, Miguel, Toni, and Rose, one of our analysts, they went through the images. I was looking at the images as well on set pieces in a different iPad, and then Mauricio pinned the main ideas in the meeting. Went to the players' locker and shown different images, and then he gave to them a short speech about how to approach the second half, adjustments, tactical adjustments, and then we fix, like we do all the matches, and just we respect the normal procedure. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Obviously you heard that all this happened in English. These are two Spanish people, well 3 actually, that we left everything we knew to come to a new country. And this new country welcomed us with open arms from day one. They were happy to accept and to take what we were offering to them, and we were happy to be helped at the beginning, and then eventually, hopefully, we all feel that we give it back as well. United Kingdom is the most welcoming country I've ever known, despite everything that's happening recently. And I hope that we don't forget that those that come from abroad are in a weak position, and I hope you don't forget to help them, as you've always done. I've got no doubt you do that. But it's good. It's a good reminder that at that moment, we're so thankful for your help. And right now, years later, it's actually good that we can give you something back. Now, our last guest is a legend, another good person who I think he's drove about 2 hours on something. I know he actually came by train. He came by train, and he's going to help us move on the event, and that's Gus Poyet.
Evening, gents. First and most important is to thank Jesus, Miguel, Toni, and Mauricio for what they done yesterday, because either you are a Tottenham fan or a football fan, it was something incredible to watch, so thank you very much. Then it's a pleasure to be here because of Guillem. I'm here. I've never been in, how do you pronounce it, Itching? We are foreigners, so looks good. 5 minutes taxi from the station to here. As you know, like he said, we started already with the residency paperwork to stay here because of the Brexit. So we're planning to stay. You don't get rid of us that easily, so don't worry. But I wanted to ask, maybe he can tell us something, Jesus, about, yesterday game. There is so many things that happen in the game that I think Edu was asking that we cannot control. But is Mauricio that calm to wait for the right moment to make a change? Or it was special yesterday, or is like that all the time?
I think any game demands a different approach, and sometimes we learn from experiences, right? But as he said, the vision of the manager and the systems is completely different, because he said the consequence of your decision, right? It's easy for us to say, but he likes to provide a message, not only a substitution or just change a player by player. There are managers that they are very, I'm not saying rigid, but they respect a lot the structure of the team, and they change one winger with another winger to keep going, But there are other managers that they want to provide, of course, the quality of the new player, but the message to the opponent, And probably yesterday they said, okay, this team now doesn't need Fernando because he's tall, because he's slow, it's not fast as the other two. And then for a while we got three strikers on the pitch, but it's about message. So with one player, you give a message to the rest of the team with no explanation, and sometimes it works, And then we took as well from experience. We remember we were winning 1-0 at San Siro, and we said, okay, the game is almost over, so we need speed up front, and we took Hurricane off, and in 2 minutes we lost the game. So it doesn't mean with Harry we could win the game, but sometimes you don't know if the message is right. Maybe the substitution is logical, but sometimes the message is not, and that's why you all are special doing those decisions. Not everyone will be right.
That's right. And the other thing, because it happened to me, I was an assistant before being a manager. Do you miss making that final decision, or you prefer you personally? Because that was my problem. When you're an assistant, you try to convince the manager or something, but at the end, it's his decision. And sometimes even if you try, he goes, somewhere else, didn't work. Do you miss that? Would you like to?
No, I don't miss that because, of course, my journey is different in this case than you were a top player. And probably to be a top manager, I think, obviously, it helps a lot. People say, okay, you can be a top manager without playing a high level. I will say yes, and we've got some examples. But the fact you were in the dressing room, the fact you felt what it means to play a good game, a bad game, what you learn from your playing career. And my journey was different, so I wasn't good enough to be professional, so I went different but being sports science and assistant, and I got this level where, you know, satisfy everything on my mind, and I don't need anything else to feel myself, because the way Mauricio led me to work with Miguel and Toni and the rest of the staff, you know, it's amazing for me, and I won't change the level to be assistant manager here in Tottenham, in this level, you know, to start my career in another club.
It's something that happens that sometimes we are not ready when you're an assistant. My assistant as well doesn't even think about it or at the moment because of the demand that we have. But at the same time, sometimes it happens, no? You're in a position, they sack the manager, and the weekend you are the coach, and you have to make a decision if you go or if you don't go, and we are all different, and some people just took advantage of that to become managers. And some people, maybe they were not ready and they failed because they were assistant and they were at that time. So that was my question coming out. What else? That's my
Spurs
list.
has changed a lot.
Eh?
Spurs has changed a lot since their time.
Yes.
I'm saying that Spurs have moved on a lot since your time to your time, and that evolution has been gathering pace. And there's a new stadium. You haven't been to the stadium yet?
Not yet. Tuesday.
On Tuesday you go to the stadium.
Right.
But I don't know if you want to compare notes.
I think society changed. Okay, and I hope you agree, because we are quite old only here. Well, at least me. And the players, they change a lot, more than what you think. Okay, I don't imagine how difficult it was for coaches in the 90s when we started having mobile phones. But definitely these last 5 years, 8 years of this social media craziness changed completely the version. And I tell you what, it doesn't matter, you know, you cannot be right or wrong if you don't allow mobile phones in the dressing room, or in the training ground, or on the bus. Because some managers, they do one way and it works, and some managers do totally the opposite, it works. It depends on the players and the group, and your belief in your personality, and how you convince the player why it's better or worse, and no, yes, a phone or no. So all those things are coming into consideration for the players, for example, right now at Tottenham, loving what they do because of the whole atmosphere that they created. You know, Mauricio with them constantly every day. You know, it could be at what time you train, or what time you travel, or if you travel in the morning of the game when you play in the evening or no, or in England difficult because of the weather. You never know if you can travel or no. But in Spain there is plenty of things. Barcelona, no? You travel early in the morning by plane because now most of the teams they travel private plane, and you play in the evening. In our times, we were by bus 2 days before or wherever, or in a British Airways. We used to travel with Chelsea. Fridays at Heathrow, which is now it will never happen. But all these things that are happening here, you're talking naturally. This Mauricio, I'm not saying this specifically, yeah. This new social media. I think that was one of the little problems of Mourinho, for example, to accept this new generation of football players. You know, with the new things that are coming out of the dressing room. That in our times there were no chance that they will come around. So it was a process. It was.
Yeah, I think everything takes time. The main principle from Mauricio and ourselves is respect. So I will give you an example. Mauricio never finds a player if arrives 1 minute late, or but it sets the principle of respect for the teammates, respect for the coaching staff. And when we arrive at Tottenham, in the restaurant, the people were taking phone calls and doing everything. And we said, you cannot remove the phones from the young lads, as you said, because society has changed. you know, but we said, listen, phone calls outside, you know, text, look at your phone, it's okay, you know, in the gym room. In the dressing room, it's the same. Very natural, very relaxed, because they are players, they are completely connected to the phone, and if you remove the phone from them, they start to feel bad and stressed. And we know one of the clubs in England cut the Wi-Fi in the dressing room. So to have together the players, but what happened is the players, they walk away of the dressing room to try to find, you know, one connection. So it's just, you achieve the opposite. So I think every manager sets the principles in a different way. It depends on how you feel, how you are, you know. And as you said, anyway, it's possible.
To finish, I agree with Guillem in many things, Guillem, and the one I agree the most is, let's be a little bit positive, gents. Yeah? Let's think about the good things that happened yesterday and not the bad ones. Let's not look responsible for bad things, and let's think about how good Tottenham play, how good Man City play, how a good game was, even with VAR. I don't know how it works, but because we got enough, it's no kids, no? Enough shit now every day in the news that we can enjoy a little bit, so try to make it.
We are getting to the end. Before we go, can we take 4 questions from the public? So if anybody wants to ask anything, this is your moment. So we do 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay? I said 1 to somebody. I'm taking the microphone there. Hold on. Get it very close to you.
Thank you. Firstly, a lot was said yesterday about Tottenham players being heroes. There's a lot of unsung heroes in the coaching staff, so I want to acknowledge all of you for everything you've done for Spurs. So the other thing that's said quite a lot about Spurs is that they are a well-coached team. And I want to get your thoughts on what that means. And then how you get the balance right between the emotions, the psychology of players, giving them instructions, and just letting them be free.
Well, I think heroes, we are all together, especially the people who support us at home and especially away, because probably the people who went to Manchester arrived 3, 4, 5 in the morning. And I think the others they have to say if our team is well coached or not. But I think as one time I said, Mauricio coaches or teaches the players to try rather to limit their capacity. So the club say to them is to do, right? So in tactics it's the same. If you try, you are close to achieve something. If you just fear, be careful, at the end, normally you lose. I think this is the main idea or the main principle. And then, of course, like all the coaches, there are way of playing, way of defend, way to train, way to believe. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But so try. If you don't try, it's difficult to achieve something.
Good evening, and it's a pleasure to be speaking to you, Jesus. My question is related to the game yesterday specifically. I was watching the game on television at home, and at about 20-8, I saw you come out of a huddle with the players on the pitch 20 minutes before kickoff, and it looked like a very intense huddle and a discussion before the game. I wanted to understand or get an insight into what was discussed there, and whether that's something you do regularly with the players before the game on the pitch.
Yeah, the half through of the warm-up, always we are together, and sometimes I say something, or sometimes one of the players, or just it's a routine, you know, to stay together, to remind little things. Never tactical, it's more about emotions, because everything was said by the manager inside. And you know, it's a routine to stick all together before the match.
Hiya. When the rumours about Manchester United and Real Madrid were going around, what did Mauricio say to you about that?
We never listened to that.
It's a pretty simple one. What did Mike Dean say? You mentioned at the beginning that you stepped in when Mauricio was worked up at the end of the game last night. Are there any other kind of situations where you have to step forward and almost take a lead?
What happened on the pitch stays on the pitch.
I must say, it's a fitting way of finishing a conversation with Jesus, because you got a very good insight, I would call it amazing insight, into how things work at Spurs. But obviously, you don't get to see everything. But very often, you don't hear anything at all. So they've opened the doors a little bit for you tonight, with the idea that you get a little bit more into how the mind works, how this group of coaches work, and how Mauricio Pochettino works. And this is a good way of celebrating as well that Spurs are in the semi-finals of the Champions League. So, have we got rid of all the raffle tickets? How are we doing?
Sold out.
Is it sold out? Anyway, what we're going to do is, if you allow me, we will go through auction the shirt. We're going to volunteer to actually do the kind of auction stuff. We're going to do the raffle, but before all that, let me say thank you, goodbye and thank you to Jesus Perez. That was interesting. I forgot to say at the beginning, by the way, that it's all off the record, that nobody's going to film anything or tweet anything, but I've just already checked that some things have come out, but I think they're just good things. I think we, as I said, we learned a lot today. Now, are we going to do the raffle first or the auction? Okay. So, for the auction, this is the shirt from the semi-finalist of the Champions League, signed by the players, but the one who's going to auction the shirt is a student of UCFB University, who's helping the club Biggleswade United. Is going to help us again today. So Matt, if you can come in, I'll hand you over the microphone to you.
Thank you, Guillem. Amazing night we've had tonight. We've got a very special prize for the auction. We've got the Tottenham Hotspur home shirt signed by every one of the first team squad.
Yep, I'll hold it for you.
Thank you. Of course, this could be a very famous shirt, the shirt that Spurs' new stadium in 2019, the possible year of European champions, who knows? And I believe we're going to start the bidding off at £50. Do we have anyone for £50? Okay, gentlemen there, and we are going to go higher, £100 I think next. Yeah. 100, gentlemen at the front. 120, anyone for 120?
If you beat Man City, yeah.
Gentlemen at the front table. And that for 150, anyone for 150? Gentlemen at the back. 200, anyone for 200? Gentleman, the second table. 250, anyone for 2? Gentleman in the white shirt. £300 for this once in a lifetime shirt. Gentleman behind the white shirt. 350. Gentleman in the white shirt. 400, any takers? Gentleman in the grey. 450 for this class of 2019 Tottenham Hotspur. Gentleman there. 500, surely we can do 500. 500. 550. Gentleman there. £600 for this what could be famous Tottenham shirt. 600. 600, anyone? Any takers for 600? It's currently at 550, 600 for the gentleman in the white. Do we have any takers for 650? 650? It's a once in a lifetime for the gentleman in the blue at 650. Do we have any takers at £700 going to a great cause, Biggleswade United? We need so much done at the club. The class of 2019 first team squad could be the year of Tottenham Hotspur European champions, and you'll have all of the signatures for the first team. Current bid 650, 700, gentlemen at the back. Do I have anyone at 750? 800 for anyone for this monumental shirt. 800. Currently at 750.
Harry Kane's on the phone, he's going to pay 1,000.
Do I have any takers for 800? The bidding's currently at 750. 800 for anyone? An arm's gone up, I don't think that was... 800 pounds for this once in a lifetime opportunity of this shirt. I don't know where it's gone, it's at the back there. All of the first team squad. The year that Tottenham Hotspur moved into their fantastic new stadium, which I'm sure many of you have been to. 800 for anyone. Going once, going twice. And it's gone to the gentleman!
Hellfire. I did not expect that. That's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Just a reminder, before we get into the raffle and then we'll let you go to do whatever you want. Just a reminder that this will help us have a wonderful, we've got one of the best pitches in the division, but it's because of what we invest on it. And we've got, it's a coaching club. Because we cannot afford to pay coaches, what we do is we offer them the possibility of going to coaching courses, and the club helps finance that learning process. That's what Biggleswade United is about. The opportunity to grow and to help the players grow through the teaching, through the coaching. So it's absolutely wonderful what you do tonight. The tickets paid, the raffle, the shirt. It really is a worthwhile night, as well as because what we hear here. So I think we're almost ready. Are we almost ready to? Are we? Okay. We're almost ready to take the five numbers that will take away signed book by Pochettino and myself. So. Innocent hand, why don't we invite the president of Biggleswade United, Peter Lin. Thank you very much. You're going to be the innocent hand.
So if you give us the back, we'll do this very quickly, but with a little bit of tension. So, I'll hold this marvelous back, especially brought for the show today. So, alright, let me just move things around, okay? So the camera's there, so we can all see, come over here. You can see that it's all done innocently. So the first number is 285. 285. Okay, come over here and collect the book. If you hang around there, when I finish, I'll sign it if I haven't signed it yet. So, like Pochettino has. Right, that's one. Oh, I almost throw it away. Another one, Peter. Alright. This one is 94. 94. 94. Thank you very much. If you hang on in there for a second. Another one. 3 more to go. By the way, they were signed 2 days ago. So they look at signatures. This is 200. 200 is the third book. 200 and 200. More 200s. And he's found it in the back of his pocket. And that's 200. And I'll give you a book over there. We've got 3, 2 more. If you hang on, I'll sign in a minute. If you want me to. Right? That's... He doesn't want me to sign it. Yeah, I'll get to it. 336. That was close, but not close enough for most. And there it is, 336. Be over there. And the last one more. One more, oh no, sorry. The last one. Oh, 2 more, okay. 1 extra one, so 2 more. Alright. This one is 32. 32. And there it is. And I'll sign for you if you wish. No, sit down, sit down. Okay. Last one. Good. Yeah. And the last one is 42. And that's 42. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been an absolute pleasure. You've been fantastic. Thank you very much, Jesus and Miguel and Toni and Gullem. If anybody wants to sign, I'll sign some books. Thank you very much. Have a great night. Thank you, everybody. Thanks. Ladies and gentlemen, before you go, I take the opportunity to thank you, Guillem, for doing this evening. Thank you, Guillem.